Hello everyone and welcome to our Excelling in Excel webinar with Professor Stoney Brooks. My name is Alex Murphy. I am the WSU Global Connections Program Coordinator, and I'm excited to introduce you to Stoney Brooks. He is the Assistant Professor of Computer Information Systems at Middle Tennessee State University. He got his PhD from WSU in 2013, and tonight he's going to walk us through a few basic spreadsheets that you might be able to use in your personal lives and go through some of the basics of the Excel system. And then next week we will pick one of those spreadsheets and Stoney will walk us through a more advanced webinar on how to actually create those spreadsheets. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Stoney. He's going to introduce us to a movie spreadsheet to keep track of your movie list in your home. So everyone sit back and enjoy, and if you have any technical questions, just type it in the chat box and let me know. Thank you.
We should all be seeing this movie list spreadsheet here. Can everybody please give me a yes if you are seeing my spreadsheets instead of just my face? Adrian says yes, 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 yes. This is Joseph, Christina, a whole bunch of yeses. Wonderful. Good. It's always a pleasure when the technology actually does what you want it to do, isn't it? All right. So taking a look here at this movie list, this is a sheet that I put together in order to just help keep track of my movies. Just something simple here. By adding in a little color, a little bit of design, it kind of spices it up versus the normal, white and checkerboard pattern that is a spreadsheet. With a movie list like this, I set it up so we have options of the different information that we can input in here to keep track of our movies. So you'll see I've got Forrest Gump, made in '94. I gave it 5 stars because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. We've got our actors here, director, genre. Scoot over a little bit. We've got, put in the rating, format. Always important to know exactly how we have it because VHS does still exist. I still have a number myself. And so you can see, other movies. I'm not a big fan of It's a Wonderful Life. Please don't hate me for that. But just not one of my favorites. But yet I'm the kind of guy who enjoys 22 Jump Street. Everybody's got their own taste. With a sheet like this, we can do a couple of pretty neat things in here. We can continue to add our movies in. So I'm down here on my number 6. I'm going to start entering in a new movie. Let's see. Okay, a movie that's going to come out soon. So here it was made in 2014. Let's go with The Hunger Games, Mockingjay, Part 1. Looks like my title went over a little bit. I've got a couple ways I can handle that. One is to make this column a little wider by clicking in the area between columns E and F. I can stretch it over a little bit so it fits nicely. Or another option, when I've got that cell selected, I can click the wrap text button up here, and it tries to fit it all nicely into that cell size. I'm going to go with that. Okay, what review should I give? How good was it? This particular sheet is set up so that when you enter in new information, okay, I see a question from Victoria. I'm going to finish this thought real quick and then I'll answer that. When you go to enter in this type of information, there is a little drop down here. This drop down has been pre-set up so that I can choose the response I want. This movie was decent but not great, so I'm going to give it 4 stars. Okay, I see another question from Brittany. I'm going to get to Victoria first. Victoria, this particular sheet here, it started out as a template that Microsoft now provides for everybody, and then I've made some cut and customized some changes myself on top of this. some of the extra columns in here, some of the extra information, some of the way it looks and whatnot. So yes, Excel has gotten a lot handier and prettier over the years compared to way back in the 90s. It's gotten much more user-friendly and much more just usable in daily life. I hope that answers your question. If not, please let me know. And Brittany, what does wrap text actually mean? Oh, you're welcome, Victoria. Brittany, wrap text is this skill that basically forces that string of text to, in a way, wrap around into the next line to make sure that it fits within the boundaries that you've given. Without wrap text, it would just be a single line of words that would then fit into the review. If I turn off wrap text, see, I'm missing some of it. But by forcing that text to wrap around, thus moving it to the next line within that cell, it makes it much more readable. Okay. So, enter a review of 4 stars, and this particular sheet automatically pops up with the 4 stars. I really like that myself. Just adds an extra view. See if I change the stars I give it, the actual number of stars shown here moves as well. Just nice to have that extra little visual so we don't always have to read the text. Starring actors, let's see, we've got Jennifer Lawrence was in that. Boy, why am I drawing a blank? It's been a while since I've seen this movie. Others. I don't remember at this point, I'm sorry. It hasn't come out on disc yet, but here soon. Which is why I also do not remember the director. Genre, action, yeah, drama kind of. Rating, I'm pretty sure, was PG-13, and it was, I'm going to own it on Blu-ray. All right. Simple as that. I have a new entry into my movie list. If I want to go and add another one, I can come back over here to the left, enter in number 7, and just get started. Enter in number 8, and you can see this sheet is set up so that when you go to make new entries, it's going to do the proper coloring here. You see, we've got this lovely shades of black and gray to really set it off. And so I can continue through, going through all of this, and put my entire movie list in here. But that's cool. I mean, it's great to have all this information in one place and having some of this, like this lovely list to choose your review of it. That's helpful. But the real power, honestly, of a sheet like this comes when you want to look for specific things. If you've got 100, 200, 500 movies, some people have large collections that they've used over a lot of time, it's hard to remember which movies you really liked. Or it's movie night and you're just really badly wanting a comedy. You just need a good laugh. With a sheet like this, we can come up here into this row of blue heading titles, click the drop down next to it, and select only those specific things that we want to see instead of everything. So if I want to see only those movies that I've put down as comedy, I'm going to click the checkbox next to select all so that it unselects everything. And then check the comedy box. Afterwards, I'm going to hit OK. And now, all I see are my comedies. These types of things can make a humongous list full of stuff. It doesn't have to be movies. Maybe it's your music collection. Maybe it's your comic book collection. Maybe it's your book collection, for that matter. But can take a large list of stuff and turn it into only what you want to see. Okay, I see a question from you, Shaman. How did I show the stars? My sheet just shows the number of stars, not the stars like yours. That is a good question, actually. I wonder, the stars part is actually kind of a confusing bit of code. If you can see the actual, sorry, lost my train of thought. If you can see the actual formula up here, you can see it's actually a little bit of confusing code here, so I don't really want to get into it but right this time. However, I wonder, are you using Excel 2013? Because if you're not using 2013, 2007, that's probably why. I'm willing to bet there's something in the newer versions that allows for this, and the older ones probably not as much. So if you get the chance to open up this file on 2010 or definitely 2013, it should work nicely. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome, Shaman. So I included this little tip box right here just to remind anybody using it how to use these little drop-down arrows. You can get rid of it if you don't like it or whatnot. So I picked my comedy for the night. I'm going to watch big, but I need to make sure I can see all the rest of my movies again. By clicking that same drop-down little button here, I can check select all once again, and once I hit OK, it'll bring back everything in there. Ta-da! This honestly seems, I mean, it's a simple idea. It's just a list of movies. But by putting it in here and using some of these neat little features, we're able to turn it into something much more useful than just a list of movies. It can help us pick those movies that we actually want to see tonight, or make sure that we have what we want. All right. If there are any questions about this particular sheet, please let me know. Yeah, there you go, Mary. Like wine lists for those large sellers. Absolutely. You could change, many of these different things to, a country of origin, vintage year, blend, your personal review of it, all of those good things. And yeah, that is a great idea, Mary. I miss the Washington wine, I've got to say. Mary Sellers there in Pullman was excellent. But yeah, you could absolutely turn this into a list to help you go through your wine to find that bottle. And for that matter, if you had a system where you actually labeled each location in a cellar where a wine bottle was located, you could keep that location as one of these fields too. So that way when you narrow it down to that one bottle you're looking for, it'll tell you exactly where it is. Oh, walla walla. Very nice. All right. Are there any questions about this sheet? If not, we're going to move on to the next one. Pardon me. Slide. This template, the basics of this template are available to download. I've made some changes to this myself to add in a couple extra features and whatnot, but some of this, as it looks right now, you can find through office.com, I believe. I don't remember the exact link, I'm sorry, but a little bit of hunting, I'm sure you can find this again. You're welcome, Slide. You're very welcome. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. I want to take a look at the his and hers weight loss tracker. Well, we've gone from black to white now. I'm sorry for anybody whose eyes just got burnt out by that. My apologies. Well, the joys of color schemes. All right. On this particular sheet, this is one that can be used with a nice added bonus of some graphics in it to help folks keep track of their weight loss. I mean, I know me, I need to lose a bunch of weight, and any kind of tool that will help keep me on track is valuable to me because my willpower is awful. I know this about myself, I admit this about myself, so something like this I figured could be really helpful. Perhaps for my wife and I, which we're not Thomas and Mary Kay Anderson, but you get the idea. On this sheet here, we're able to choose our starting weights, enter in our goal weights where we want to be, and then below we start entering in the information about what we've done and where we want to go. Not in these boxes, no, no, no. But as you scroll down into our days. How I would use this sheet, if my weights, if I worked, today's the 18th. I apologize. Today's the 18th. So today I weighed myself and I was 192 pounds, let's say. I enter that in and you'll see some interesting things start to happen. First, it provides a nice little graphic here. Let me zoom in a little bit. It provides a nice little graphic here so we can visually see, especially if I was to go and fill this in so we didn't have as much white space. 195, 194, 194, 193. We can visually see, hey, guess what? We're getting smaller. Kind of neat. But it does more than just that. If we go back up here, we have it set up right now to update this type of information as well. I may have started out at 205, but the lowest I've ever been since I've been on here is 192, which means that I have lost 6.3% of my weight. My average over this whole time was 197.4. I've got 2 pounds left into my goal, and I've lost 13 so far. It just gives me all of this information simply because I went and updated that. Want to see a drastic change here? What if I change my starting weight from 205 to 305? Watch how these numbers jump. Oh boy. Now, I've lost 37% of myself. 113 pounds worth. I'll set that back to 205 so it looks a little more realistic here. But the neat thing about a sheet like this is it's a pretty simple idea. Just keep track of your weight loss. It's actually somewhat simple in Excel itself. Putting in the formulas and whatnot to make all this information update nicely like it is somewhat straightforward actually. It's nothing too incredibly complex. And it's just useful. If you're anything like me, I enjoy seeing information that has this kind of colors and charts and graphs. It's just a nice visual way to see it. Not everybody wants to just look at a list of numbers in a spreadsheet. I could come over here and type 195, 195, 194, 194, 193, 192. And I can look at this and say, hey, I've lost weight. Great. And for some people, this is the way to do it. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But for me, having these extra visuals, having these extra colors, just makes it that much easier to understand, that much more useful. And honestly, maybe I'm just an Excel geek, but I'm actually more likely to use this thing. Oh, Victoria, I haven't even shown you the beginning of how it's changed since the 90s, so now it is so much more powerful and just more awesome in a lot of ways. It has come a long way, that is for sure. And I'm glad to hear that you're impressed with how far it's come. Microsoft has done well with this one. Unlike Windows 8, they've done a good job with this. One other thing on this sheet here. Oh, thank you, Christina. I appreciate that. One other thing on this sheet here, this lovely little tip, that this doesn't have to just be for a single month. You don't have to go and erase it all over again just because, well, in this case, January is over. If you come down to the lower left of the Excel sheet, there's a little tab that says Month 1. If you hold down the Control button, click on that Month 1 and drag to the right, it will completely copy that entire worksheet. So now I have a literal duplicate. I can come in here, rename it to month 2 by right-clicking on it, start updating, if I can spell, start updating this so that I can make it for the new month. I was down to not 295, 195. Ms. Mary Kay was at 147. And then clean it out so that we have a fresh start of the month. Ah, Nancy, hello. This is currently Excel 2013. I believe most of this should work on Excel 2010 as well, but I haven't tested that. I'm not 100%. I know in 2007 and beforehand there's going to be some issues. Victoria, I'm sorry to hear that you weren't able to do that. I imagine it's probably because you don't have a control key on a Mac. I honestly, I'm not much of a Mac user myself, so I'm not quite sure how to do that on there. However, I'm sure I could look it up and get back to you if you'd like. Feel free to contact Global Connections or whatnot, and they could forward it on to me, and I'd be happy to get back to you with that. Okay. So I'm not much of a Mac user. Most of the business stuff that I have to do needs a Windows machine, so I apologize I don't have answers for that. All right. You will see that now that I've cleaned out all this data, we've got some issues up here. Oh, I don't know. I have nothing against Macs, Christina. It's just not the right tool for me. That's all. Right tool for the job, and that's just not the right one for me. You'll see that now we don't have a maximum or a minimum. We don't have a loss, an average to goal. That's because we have no data. There's no information down here, so it can't compute these things. But if we put in our starting weights, 195, on day 1, we start to get the joy of our power here. Okay, that's what I wanted to show with this his and hers weight tracker. If there are any questions, I'll take them now, and if not, we'll move on to the next sheet. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Brittany. I'm sure that's going to be very helpful for those Mac users out there. Thank you very much. All right, if there are any other questions, please let me know. Otherwise, let's move on to the Family Monthly Budget Planner. I see Heather saying, I think there are people raising their hands. Okay, if anyone has a question, please type it into the chat box. I can't see hand raising, I'm sorry. But if there is anything, please stop me. The budget. All right. So this has been up for the whole session. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you, Global Campus. I appreciate that. So looking into this next sheet here, the Family Monthly Budget Planner. This is something that I probably should use and haven't used quite as much as I need to, but I probably will here shortly. This sheet here is to help with our finances. Now, I know I personally don't plan out every single thing that I don't make a budget month to month, and it probably shows. So maybe I should become more fiscally responsible and use something like this. I hope you see it with me, but I love this tool, once again, for the visuals. It's all about the visuals in this case. So we're going to come back to this bit up top. This graph here is comparing our total income, total expense, and total cash flows between the projected and our actual. So what did we budget versus what did we actually spend? And hopefully we're on the plus and not the negative. Hopefully the darker orange is higher up than the lighter tannish color. So how to use a sheet like this? Well, the way I've set it up, let's start off with just we've got our basic cash flows here. This cash flow is actually something that's being calculated in the sheet. You don't need to enter this in yourself. So I'll show you a little bit of that. What we do want to enter is moving further down. Around row 17, we have a section for monthly income. So, income 1. I could even rename this to, Stoney's income. How much do I think I'm going to earn this month? Well, I'd love to earn, 100,000, but I don't see that happening today. I'll just leave the number as it is. I think I'm going to earn 4,000. Let's hope that I actually did earn 4,000, and that changes. Income 2. Let's go with Ashley's income. Ashley's the name of my wife, lovely lady. Say she earned 1,300. Thought she was going to earn 1,300. She actually earned 1,400. Extra income and other. Maybe you won the lottery. If you do, share with me. So here in this income section, we can keep track of what we assumed, what we actually had, and what the difference is. These lovely variance sections here, variances, I gotta love it, it's kind of the fanciest word, reminds you of statistics. But this variance, all it means is what is the difference. Yellow is the color of neutral, basically, means there was no difference. Green is for good. Green means that we actually had more than we projected. We're in the positive. And red, when we see it, is bad. Red means that our expenses was higher than the projected. Or our actual income was lower than our projected. Ooh. So put in our money received here. Move it further down. We can get into some sections of our expenses. Gotta love those things there. We can enter in projections at the beginning of the month of what we expect to spend on some of these things. $34 for cable, boy, I wish. I actually spent closer to $50. Or maintenance, I'm going to budget $25. My electric bill, well, it's the winter. Bet it's probably going to be closer to $75. Don't have a second mortgage, those kinds of things. And then as the bills come due, I can put them here in the actual, and the numbers will start to update properly. So I thought I was going to spend $75. I actually spent $60, which means that I budgeted $15 more than I was expecting. We have some other, sorry, it's scrolling a little too far from here. We have some other subsections that we need to budget out. So you can see I haven't budgeted very well. Vehicle payments, transportation. If I have a $300 a month car payment, that's not going to change. Victoria, I see your question. Is there any way to roll up the numbers? For instance, if you had 50 left over in one category, could it be applied to the following month? Yes, there would be a way to do that. However, for this particular sheet, our whole purpose is just a single month's budget. So if we were talking larger finances, of way of rolling cash in and out, then yeah, we could absolutely set it up this way. But I personally built this as just a way to make sure that I keep my single month finances on top. So if I end up with extra money at the end of the month, great, I did a good job with my budget, and I've got a little bit more money than I was expecting. Okay, good question, thank you. So I'm not going to go through and fill in this stuff for everything. You can already start to see how it works. Went too far. Insurance, gotta love insurance. Food, that seems rather important. Children, for those of you with children, I'm sure you know they are not exactly cheap. And there's many different things that we need to account for concerning child expenses. Pets, personal care, entertainment, loans. We could put in just about any category you can think of. savings, gifts, legal stuff. Yeah, well, forget the stuff. That was my testing there. So we can budget out all of our different things for the entire month. Now, this is going to take a lot of planning and a lot of foresight to know how much am I going to spend on sporting events this month. Well, okay, some of these might be really easy and be zeros. Live theater. Well, I might go see a show. $25, but nope, I brought my wife with me, so it cost me $50. I budgeted $25, spent $50, which means I'm $25 over budget right now. Once all these numbers get applied, we go up to the top of the page, and we can start to see up here how we're doing. This cash flow section, we expected $5,600 coming in. We actually got $5,700, which means, hey, all right. Our expenses, we projected $1,569. We spent $1,566, which means that we are $3 under budget right now. Life is good. Made an extra $100, saved $3 more than we were expecting, which leaves us $103 above what we thought we would be. If something happens here, I want to give you an example, and keep an eye on the graphs up here. If my income takes a hit, maybe I'm out sick, or they just don't need to work me for 2 weeks out of the month. Oh boy, we've got some issues now. Hopefully you notice that the light colored on the actuals here dropped a whole lot because life is nowhere near as good right now. We're hurting. Well, thank you, Rachel. I'm glad this has been useful. So this type of sheet right here, it takes some time and effort to get it set up properly to account for all the different things you need to budget. And yes, it does take a bit of effort and a bit of motivation to fill in all the information properly. But for someone who is dedicated and wants to make sure that they stick to a budget, this could be a wonderful tool. Absolutely, a great tool. All right, are there any questions on this one here? I'm glad to hear that, Christina. Stay dedicated to it, and I'm sure it can be very helpful. Okay, Nancy, I see. How did you construct the graph at the top? This graph at the top is based on this cash flow box down here. So when I went to actually create, the graph, you use the data that has been calculated here in the cash flow as part of a bar chart, and it's able to cast it against each other. All of this data is being calculated from all the different subsections below. Joseph, I see you say, can the surplus or deficit of 1 month be carried to the next month? I believe, you're welcome, Nancy. I believe someone else actually asked that question a minute ago, and in this case, the way I have it set up right now, no, it cannot, because the purpose of this sheet is just to make sure that we're on top of a month-to-month budget. That said, I don't think it would take a whole lot extra to add to this to be able to make it something that can roll over. Actually, in fact, I'm just thinking about it on the top of my head, it would be fairly simple to add in a couple extra formulas that could take the surplus or deficit, like you say, and make that part of, potentially even make it part of this monthly income here. We could add it to, the other section, we have, rollover from the previous month, positive, negative, or whatever. So if I was 50 bucks in the hole last month, I could bring that in right there, which would still be in the hole, and pull that in. For more details, yes, as Global Campus has mentioned, we could absolutely address this in more detail if that's what everybody would like to see. Are there any other questions on the budget planner for now? Oh, you're welcome, Joseph. Okay, Victoria. Would I recommend this over a program like Quicken? Okay, that is a good question, actually. And the easy answer is it depends. But in reality, it really does. It depends on what you're trying to do with it, Victoria. If you were to, if you're using a program for, say, a small business or running your own e-commerce site or something like that, I believe Quicken would be a much better tool, as it has a lot of those accounting type functions, much more user-friendly and helpful in that sense. But for maybe personal finances, okay, for personal finances, if you want a program to be able to tie into your bank account and your auto payments and things, Quicken is probably the way to go because a lot of that is already built in. But if you just want something to just use for yourself to kind of keep track of it, and it doesn't need to integrate with other systems like your bank itself, then I would recommend Excel. Simply because for me, it's a lot easier to use, it's not as complex, and there are a lot more things that you can do with it besides just keeping track of finances. That's a really good question, though. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to our last sheet now. Well, very good point, Nancy. It does help you to get up close and personal with your money in Excel. Okay. For those of you that are students, I'm sure this will resonate quite well. Or for those of you who at least used to be students, maybe you wish you would have had something like this when you were in class. This is a student grade and GPA tracker. Well, for that matter, it's even kind of your degree tracker. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Victoria. So this sheet has the potential to be one of the more complex ones that we're showing, and that's why I saved it for the end right now. As you can see in the bottom left, we have 4 different tabs. So there's a lot going on in here, but it also could be fantastic. The purpose of this sheet is like it says, is to keep track of schoolwork, grades, classes, all that good stuff. So even though the first tab is our score tracker, we really need to begin at the last tab, the settings. That is going to be the place where we begin this journey. So you can click on the settings tab in the bottom left, or this lovely button up here that says edit settings will take you right over to that sheet. In this particular sheet, we have a couple of very important bits of information. The first is our GPA and grade map. So in this one, we lay out exactly what percentage means what grade and what GPA. So if you have a 91, our sheet here can know that that is an A- and worth 3.67 points of GPA. So once you put this in once, life should be good. Below here is where you enter in the classes that you are taking. Currently, I've got it set up to use for 25 classes, but there's no reason that couldn't be expanded. So if you are a busy bee and you wanted to take all of these classes, well, you could, or you can use it to keep track over a period of time. Enter in your class name, what category of class it is. Now these categories, as you can see from this drop-down, I entered in based on the curriculum at Washington State. There are these different categories of classes that people need to take. You have to have a certain number of credits of integrative and applied learning and ways of knowing. Everybody's got to take the first year experience and all that. So here you get to specify which category the class you're taking falls into. That'll help you with the degree tracking. Credit hours, and then what does your grade breakdown look like? The joy of the syllabus, and when they say exams are worth half of your grade and the homework is worth 25% and all that good stuff, well, you put that right in here. Make sure it adds up to 100. If it doesn't, Like when I change this to 20, this will let you know with a nice red flag. Let me zoom in and make sure people can see. So, whoops, you didn't add up properly, something's missing. All right, change that back to 30, and life is good again. Finally, the last column I put in here is the status. Is this a class you're currently taking or one that you've already taken in the past? This is important for the degree tracking part. So once you've done your due diligence in the beginning by laying out your class, your credit, and how the grades are made, now we can start tracking these things. So back to the score tracker sheet, our very first one, is where you can start to input each individual grade you get in any of your classes. In addition to this, once again, if you can't tell, I like graphs. I added in a chart that shows your current grade in each class. So you'll see as I'm going to add in another assignment or something, this chart over here is going to update. So what class? Got a lovely drop down here for all of our different classes. Right now, it doesn't differentiate between ones in progress and ones that are completed. That could be an update, something added to make it a little better. But let's say we just had an assignment in our French class. Okay, what type of assignment was it? Oh, I don't know. We had a midterm. That sounds pretty horrible. We'll call it exam 1. The description is whatever you want it to be. Under my setting, the subtopics are not in drop-down format. Why? Joseph, are you on this score tracker page right now? What version of Office are you using? Honestly, I'm not quite sure then. I tested this on a couple different machines and it worked. I apologize that it's not working for you. It should be. However, if that's something that you continue to have an issue with, perhaps contact me through Global Connections later and I can see if I can help work through this. But for that matter, you don't have to use the drop-down. I could come in here and type out the word midterm, or I could change this over to quiz by typing it in, and that works just as fine. The drop-downs are just there to make it a little bit faster, just a tiny bit handier. So I'm going to change this back to midterm, exam 1. And how did we do? Well, French is not my forte. We got a 70. Ooh. When I enter in this 70%, watch what happens to our current grade over there. The bottom bar of the modern French. Oh no. Sorry, you meant under setting. Oh, I gotcha. I'll revisit that in just a second, Joseph. So by getting a 70 on this exam, it dropped our grade in French from an 83 to a 74. Ugh, that hurts. But as I know a lot of students like to do, especially when it comes time for final grades and whether you want to take that final exam or not, I wonder what my grade would be if I would have gotten an 80. Hey, let's find out. Change that to an 80, and boom, I'm back up to an 81 in my grade. Hooray! If all I needed was at least a B minus, I know I got to shoot for at least an 80 on that midterm. So really helpful. I would say I love this. I wish I would have had this when I was an undergrad myself. A lot of time. Oh, Mary speaking French. I know beaucoup is very much, but the rest I do not understand. My apologies. So this, I would say, this is just so handy. Advanced programming in Java. We don't want another midterm. We're doing a homework 3, and we got 100. Let's see how that changes our grade in Java. 75 up to an 86. All right. So that is awesome. We're going to go back into the edit settings real quick for Joseph. So for some of these categories, we have the drop-downs, Joseph, not all of them. In fact, I think the category of category is the only one that should have the drop-down right now. And maybe status. Yes, status as well. Everything else you have to manually type in. So if you've got the drop-downs underneath category and underneath status, then your right is the same as me. Both of your own does not have. Very strange. I'll see. As I said, I'll take a look into that and see if I can come up with a good answer for you, Joseph. I will. Okay. So what else can we do beyond this score tracker here? Let's view our performance. That's our second tab, the blue one down here in the bottom. Or we can click the button here. And now we can see a little bit more details. Not quite as flashy, not quite as pretty, but some more details about our current classes. So, how many hours are we currently taking? Well, 24. This person is nuts. What's our average score overall of our classes? What would our current GPA be? What would our weighted GPA be? And what is our overall average grade? That kind of ties along with the GPA or the percentage here. Otherwise, we list out each of our classes. Right here it says specifically what our grade is. We saw that on the chart back on the other sheet. What the GPA would be if this was our final letter grade. And then one thing that's kind of neat and will be as you started adding in more assignments is the overall performance. This column H here. This is a line graph that shows your overall performance by percentage over time. So at the beginning of the semester, like in theoretical physics, we've only had one assignment. So we're up here. Let me zoom in a little more. This is kind of hard to see. Okay. So this box unchecked, the second one down, this box unchecked on, which is H8. We've only had one assignment, which is this first little point right here. But in this class, let's scroll over Modern French. We started out good, got a little better, and then it's kind of been downhill since there. We can track our percentage grade over time. So we can start to see if we started out strong and then faded fast at the end, or if we've been getting better over time, without having to go back and look at each individual assignment. The little dot up here shows us where our highest grade was out of everything we've done. Which assignment was it in that sense? So here we started out okay, got really good, and then there hasn't been anything since. That's why there's this line of this solid line down here with nothing, because that's room for more assignments as we add them in. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out now. And finally, we have the Your Degree tab. Ooh. Now this one right now isn't as flashy. That gives us some room to play around and figure out what we need to add to this. But as a way of keeping track of your degree program, we have our categories here, the ones that were specified by Wazoo. You'll notice that I have even put in some comments. Major specific courses. Well, how many hours you need? Well, it depends on your major. Some need more than others. Whereas things like first year experience, foundational competencies, etc., these are requirements for all undergrad students. Those are not going to change. Over here, based on the information in our settings, it tells us how many hours we've actually done so far, how many we're currently in, and how many more hours in that category we still need. So simple enough. You have to have 16 hours of the ways of knowing. You've taken 3 so far. You're currently in 6, which means that you've got 7 left to go. Our current overall GPA can be showed up here. We also see how many overall hours, and that must not have made it through even though I saved it. Okay. But as just a basic place to start, this sheet here can help you keep track of where do you need to go get your extra classes in. Oh, do I still need to take a science class? Well, yep, you still have 6 hours in that applied and integrated learning that you need. Maybe it's time to go take a science class. Something like that. Back to our score tracker, and here we are. So there's definitely room to improve on this. There's room to grow, add in some extra stuff. You know, make it a little sharper maybe if you don't like this lovely orange color. But for me, this is an amazingly helpful tool, especially when it comes time for finals and midterms, to know what's going on. Because man, is it hard to keep track of all those different classes sometimes. Does anyone have any questions on this for now? Okay. All right, I'm not seeing anything at this time. If you do, please chime in. So I'm glad to hear that, Victoria. Really am. So that is what I wanted to share with you all tonight. I wanted to show you some examples of how Excel can move beyond just this accounting tool. Yes, can it do accounting? Yeah, absolutely it can. It's good at it. But there is much, much more that can be done to help you in your individual lives. Okay, I'm sorry. Now I'm seeing a handful of questions come in. I'm glad. Let me address a couple of those real quick. Catherine, will I be going over how to create these tables in the advanced lessons next week? Yes, and I'll explain that in just a second. So give me a minute. I will come back to that. And Adrian, same thing. Next class, go over formulas and how to generate what we reviewed today. Yes. So actually, let's just say that right now. As you know, we have a follow-up webinar scheduled for Monday at 5:30 as well, to where we can dig a little bit deeper into some of this here. Not only is it cool to know that these things exist, but how are they done? How can you make this for yourself? How can you start using your creativity and, you know, build in the things that make sense to you and become more useful to you? Unfortunately, we do not have enough time during that webinar to be able to go through everything, because there's actually quite a bit here. So that being said, we should figure out which of these 4 sheets here you'd really like me to focus on next week and be able to break apart and show you at least, at very least, how to get started, but hopefully the whole thing of how these are put together. I will ask our moderator right now. Moderator, do you have a special way to ask about this? Or shall we just say something inside of the chat window?
I think let's just go ahead and take a poll within the chat box. So whatever you would like to see created, go ahead and just type it into the chat, and I will take account for that.
All right, let's just go ahead and do that now. I would like for everyone to please place a vote for which of these you'd like me to dig into. If you would like to see the movie list in more details, please enter 1. If you'd like to see the his and hers weight loss tracker in more details, please enter 2. If you'd like to see the family monthly budget planner, please enter 3. And if you'd like to see more about the student grade and GPA tracker, please enter 4. And I know we'll be keeping an eye on that, and hopefully we can come to a decent consensus so we can just dive into one of these in more details. So while everyone is placing their particular votes, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I really, really enjoy being able to speak on this, to be able to provide this sort of information to you. I'm really excited about our webinar coming up on Monday to really get into the nuts and bolts of this. And I hope that, if not everything, you hopefully gained something very valuable to be able to take out into your own lives and be of use to you. Excel is not necessarily this frightening beast only used by accountants and business folk. It can be incredibly useful for anybody in daily life. Thank you all once again.
All right, I just want to say thank you so much to Stoney for sharing his expertise with us tonight and for taking the time out to answer all of your questions and be very thorough. I know that I learned a lot, and I hope that all of you at home learned a lot. And I hope you join us again for Monday's event. We will count up the votes in tonight's chat box, and I will let you know via email what we're going to focus on Monday night. And in the meantime, I'm going to put a survey into the chat box. If you could just take 2 minutes to fill that out for us. It helps us on our end for Global Connections to understand what's most helpful and help us shape and create our future programs. So if you could take a moment to give us some feedback and hopefully join us on Monday night, and then make sure that you check out our website, connections.wsu.edu. I'm going to also type that into the chat box. We've got some really great programs coming up. We have a fitness webinar happening on February 25th, and then I know that Stoney mentioned that he really enjoyed Mary Sellers Winery. We will be doing a live stream with them on March 3rd, and they're actually offering a $100 gift certificate that we'll be giving away during that live stream. So make sure you check out our website, and thanks for joining us, and we will see hopefully most of you next week. Have a great night, everyone.